Ladies and gentlemen, you will never be prepared for the reality of aging. No matter how many books you read, how many well-meaning elders offer advice, or how much you tell yourself you won't become like them, there are certain truths about growing old that will hit you with a force you didn't see coming. And the worst part? No one warns you. They don't tell you about the hidden costs of wisdom, the invisible tolls that aging exacts from the body and the psyche. The systems we have in place, social, psychological, even cultural, mask the inconvenient and uncomfortable aspects of aging. But today, we are going to confront them head on. As you age, your body begins to betray you in ways you never anticipated. Movements that once felt effortless, jumping out of bed, bending to tie your shoes, or running up the stairs, suddenly demand more effort. Your joints ache without reason, your muscles recover more slowly, and simple physical exertions leave you more fatigued than before. It's not just about pain. It's about the unsettling realization that you no longer have full control over your own body. Tasks that were once second nature become calculated efforts. You have to think before you move, plan before you exert. Injuries that were once minor inconveniences take weeks or months to heal, and some never fully do. It's a gradual but undeniable shift that forces you to recognize the limits of your physicality. And with that recognition comes a sobering truth. Aging isn't just about getting older. It's about losing the body you once knew. Strength is something you don't truly appreciate until it starts to fade. When you're young, lifting, carrying, and moving through the world with ease feels natural, almost effortless. But as you age, your grip weakens, your endurance shortens, and your ability to push through physical challenges diminishes. You start noticing it in small ways. Carrying groceries feels heavier, standing up takes more effort, and long walks leave you more tired than they used to. It's not just about muscle loss. It's about the frustration that comes with realizing your body is no longer as capable as it once was. Strength was once a given. Now it's something that requires maintenance, constant effort, and eventually acceptance. The shift is gradual but undeniable. The physical independence you once took for granted starts slipping away, and with it comes the awareness that strength, like time, is something you can't hold on to forever. Your mind, once sharp and quick, begins to slow in ways that are subtle at first, but gradually impossible to ignore. Thoughts that once connected effortlessly now require more effort to piece together. You find yourself searching for words mid-sentence, forgetting names, or struggling to recall why you walked into a room. It's not just forgetfulness, it's a shift in the way your brain processes information. Where once there was clarity, now there is occasional fog. Conversations feel harder to follow, and distractions become more difficult to filter out. It's frustrating, not because you've lost intelligence, but because the speed and precision you once relied on are no longer guaranteed. The mind, much like the body, requires more effort to maintain, but even with that effort, change is inevitable. And the hardest part isn't just the mental slowing, it's the awareness that it's happening and the fear of what comes next. As you age, the present starts to lose its grip on you, and the past becomes more alluring. You find yourself reminiscing more often, reliving old memories, and talking about the way things used to be. At first it seems harmless, just nostalgia, a fondness for earlier days. But over time, it becomes a pattern. The world around you moves faster, technology evolves, culture shifts, and suddenly you feel out of place. It's easier to retreat into memories where things felt familiar, where you knew the rules and belonged. Conversations with younger people become frustrating because they don't share your references, your experiences, or your sense of what life should be. Slowly you start to disengage, not because you want to, but because the present feels foreign and unwelcoming. Without realizing it, you begin to live more in the past than in the now, and the world moves on without you. As the years pass, the people you once surrounded yourself with start to disappear. Some move away, some drift apart, and others are lost to time. You don't notice it at first. Life keeps you busy, routines fill your days. But then one day you realize your phone rings less often, the invitations slow down. The circle that once felt so full and vibrant begins to shrink. Friendships that once required no effort now demand intentional maintenance, and yet even with effort, people fade. The world becomes quieter and loneliness creeps in, not as a sudden wave, but as a slow, persistent presence. Social isolation isn't always about being physically alone. It's about feeling disconnected. You watch younger generations build their own circles, just as you once did, and you wonder when you became an outsider. The truth is, relationships require constant tending, and without them, aging can feel profoundly isolating. Energy, once abundant and effortless, begins to dwindle with age. You wake up tired even after a full night's sleep. Tasks that used to take an hour now take 2, not because you're less capable, but because fatigue lingers longer. You pace yourself more, knowing that pushing too hard will leave you drained for days. Even mental energy declines. Decision-making feels heavier, focusing takes more effort, and social interactions, once invigorating, become exhausting. It's not just physical weariness. It's a deeper kind of fatigue, one that seeps into every aspect of life. You start choosing rest over activity, quiet over excitement, routine over adventure. The desire to do more is still there, but the energy to follow through isn't. People around you may not understand, assuming it's laziness or disinterest, but it's neither. It's the body's way of conserving what little reserves remain, forcing you to slow down whether you want to or not. The world changes at a relentless pace, and one day you realize you're struggling to keep up. Technology that once seemed intuitive now feels foreign. Updates happen faster than you can adjust, and conversations are filled with terms you don't understand. Simple tasks, sending a message, using a new device, navigating an app, suddenly require effort. Younger generations adopt new tools effortlessly while you find yourself hesitating, second-guessing, or avoiding them altogether. There's a subtle frustration in realizing that something as fundamental as communication is slipping away from you. The world is increasingly digital, but you still remember a time when things were simpler, when face-to-face interaction mattered more. The fear of making mistakes or appearing outdated keeps you from trying, and over time this gap grows wider. What was once a minor inconvenience becomes a real barrier, and before you know it, the digital world has left you behind. There comes a moment when you realize that people no longer notice you the way they once did. In a society obsessed with youth, aging makes you fade into the background. In stores, younger people are served first. In conversations, your opinions are overlooked. You walk into a room and eyes no longer turn your way. It's not just about attractiveness or status, it's about relevance. The world moves on, prioritizing the new over the experienced, the fresh over the familiar. You might still have wisdom to share, but fewer people ask for it. You might still have things to contribute, but opportunities feel scarcer. It's a quiet kind of erasure, one that happens gradually until one day you feel invisible. And the hardest part, you remember a time when you were seen, valued, and heard. Now you have to fight to remind the world and yourself that you still matter. At some point, the reality of mortality stops being an abstract idea and becomes a constant presence in your mind. When you're young, death feels distant, something that happens to other people, but as you age, the reminders become frequent and unavoidable. Friends pass away, health scares become more common, and your own body begins to show undeniable signs of wear. You start measuring time differently, not in years ahead, but in what remains. There's an underlying anxiety that grows with each passing year, a quiet awareness that every choice, every moment carries more weight because the future is no longer infinite. The fear isn't just about dying, it's about what's left undone, about whether you've lived fully or wasted too much time. No one prepares you for the weight of this realization, for the way it reshapes your perspective. You learn that aging isn't just about growing old, it's about facing the end. As you age, the weight of unfinished dreams and missed opportunities grows heavier. When you're young, the future seems limitless. There's always more time to chase ambitions, repair relationships, or take risks. But eventually you realize that some doors have closed forever. Regret creeps in, not just for the things you did, but for the things you never dared to do. The job you didn't take, the words you left unsaid, the risks you avoided, all of them linger in your mind. You wonder what could have been different, what alternate paths might have led to greater fulfillment. The hardest part isn't just the regret itself, it's knowing that some chances will never come again. You can't go back, you can't undo the past. And so, you're left with two choices. Let regret consume you, or make peace with the life you've lived and focus on what time remains. Purpose is what gives life structure, and as you age, you may find that the things that once defined you, career, family responsibilities, personal ambitions, begin to fade. Retirement, an empty nest, or changing societal roles can leave you feeling adrift, as if the framework that once guided your days has suddenly disappeared. Without something to strive for, time begins to feel empty, and the question arises, what now? The routines that once kept you engaged start to feel repetitive, and without a clear sense of direction, a quiet sense of irrelevance can settle in. You realize that purpose was never just about productivity. It was about meaning, about feeling necessary to the world around you. If you don't actively seek new reasons to engage, to learn, to contribute, the void only grows. The challenge isn't just finding something to do. It's rediscovering why it matters that you do it at all. One of the hardest truths about aging is realizing that at some point you will need help. Independence, something you once took for granted, slowly slips away. Tasks that used to be effortless, driving, cooking, even dressing yourself, become challenges. You may resist asking for assistance, not wanting to be a burden, but reality forces you to accept that you can't do everything alone. The shift is gradual at first, small favors from family or friends, but over time reliance increases. There's a deep discomfort in feeling like you're inconveniencing others, even if they help willingly. The fear of becoming dependent, of losing dignity, weighs heavily. You remember a time when you were the caretaker, the provider, the strong one. Now, roles are reversed, and you must face the uncomfortable truth. Aging isn't just about losing ability. It's about learning to accept help with grace, even when it feels unbearable.